next colleague, Stephen Guilbeault. You have 6 minutes.
Monsieur le Président, thank you very much for being here with us. As you know, Foreign Affairs Minister Annan announced yesterday $8.3 million of aid to Cuba, which is roughly a doubling of what Canada has sent towards the country on a yearly basis. How is Canada's humanitarian assistance, particularly funding that's directed to the World Food Program, UNICEF, or the Red Cross, can be used on the ground to support vulnerable Cubans?
Thank you for the question. I would like to start by saying that we are very grateful for every time Canada, as the government, and also Canadians, try to help the Cuban population. What is concerning in this case is two things. I will give you my point of view from the Cuban perspective and also from the Canadian perspective. From the Cuban perspective, we do know that, for example, the $8.3 million will go to the organizations that you just mentioned. What we're worried about is who those organizations are partnering with within Cuba, because the government has a record to portraying few non-governmental organizations, Federación de Mujeres Cubanas, Central de Trabajadores,
the Federation of Cuban Women, Workers of Cuba.
Organization, although the regime portrays as independent, they are not. They are part of the structural failure that we are enduring. So rather than asking Canada to refrain from sending aid, what I would ask is that that aid is being distributed by, let's say, a faith-based institution that is distributed by the civil society, because the regime is going to divert, like Ms. Barrero was saying, is going to divert those. There are evidence of tourists in Cuba finding some of those packages that have been sent in the past in the hotel. So it does not reach the population. I've lived the island for 23 years. I keep in touch with my family. I come from the Holguín province. Canada has been helping Cuba for decades. None in my family, none in our province has received that help. So we do come here with concerns, but we are also offering solutions. We can distribute to the committee later via separate correspondence those point of contacts within Cuba that are willing and capable. They have the human resources, they have the capability to distribute the aid throughout the island. We do have confirmation from Caritas in Havana that they do not have capacity at the moment to distribute any help, because the U.S. administration has been providing aid to Cuba, and also the representative from the U.S. has been actually visiting provinces and speaking directly to the people to ensure and to have accountability and verification process to make sure it reaches the people. So I would also suggest that Canada does the same, should Canada wish. Thank you.
Thank you. So your suggestion is that rather than work with organizations like the ones I mentioned, the Red Cross, UNICEF, or the World Food Program, that we work with faith-based organizations. I believe we already do some of that, but you're suggesting we should refrain from working with UN agencies?
No, that's not what I'm referring to. No, Canada will work with the partnerships that are already established. I'm saying those partnerships in return, should they be willing to do so, we can provide the point of contacts of the civil society so that the help actually reaches the people. Because you see, should UNICEF or the World Program, the World Food, the World Food Program distribute the help with the Cuban partnership, political prisoners and the family of political prisoners won't see that. We have from the coalition sent medicine to Cuba, and I'll tell you a story quickly. The medicine that we have sent for children that were sick in Havana with high fever. The mother didn't have a thermometer to take the fever. We sent a package. They deployed 3 police cars to the residence of the person that was in charge of collecting the medicine and distributed among the several children of political prisoners. That's the reality in Cuba. Therefore, it's going to happen the same to the aid that Canada is sending. And the other thing I wanted to add, please, if I may, if Canada sends dollars to Cuba, funding, financial aid, for those partnerships within the island, they will have to end up in the retail dollarized stores that belong to the regime. So might as well send the $8.3 million directly to GAESA's funds. And from the Canadian point of view that I mentioned earlier, life in Canada is hard. Inflation in Canada has gone up to 7.1%. Why would taxpayers' money be funding a military dictatorship that has over 18 billion in assets? That I do not comprehend. Versus maybe engaging in a dialogue, but firm dialogue, saying there needs to be reform in Cuba after 67 years. There need to be elections. There need to be a peaceful transition to democracy. We would love to see that from Canada. We should not continue as a country to funnel financial assistance to a dictatorship that is not budging. They don't want to democratize the island. They don't want to implement reforms for the free enterprise. Why Cuba has to have Canadian companies investing in our island? We Cubans cannot do that. Here in Canada, when we prepare the procurement paperwork, we do have to aim for 85 Canadian content in our paperwork, in our procurements, because we want to develop Canadian industry. And then why, if we want to do that as a country, then Cubans, we cannot develop our industry in Cuba? Why Canadian companies have to be enabling a regime to exploit its workers? Because again, that money, for example, Sherit International, Sherit has been polluted. My province, MOA, the municipality where Sherit operates, is an environmental disaster. And Sherit pays the funds to the Cuban government. They have employment agencies that collect the salary. And then the government keeps the salary and only pays a portion, and we don't have independent union. So Canadian companies are contributing to the slavery, modern slavery in Cuba.
Thank you very much. We're over, yeah.